Hello everyone, thanks for following me on my blogs and my weekly blogs on my webpage and my videos on my YouTube channel. Now we've got an interesting one for you today, and I'll start with a curious question. What is the connection between professional poker and dressage, which is an equestrian skill? Well, it's not obvious to most of us, but there is somebody called Louise Davison who did find a connection, and the connection she discovered was that the mind skills required in both are transferable. And so they are, which is fortunate for me because it doesn't really matter who my clients are. My mind skills work equally well for any of them. So whether I'm working with the number one poker player in the world or with Louise, then it's the same issues come up to me. Anyway, the point of this little introduction is to celebrate somebody called Sigiano van de Kampert. And I doubt whether you've heard of him because he's not a person at all. He's a horse, and he belongs to Louise. And they have just won a major dressage competition called a Prix Saint-Georges. And my understanding is that it's one of the levels of competence and skills that one has to go through to be considered for international selection and Olympics and all the other things that lie beyond. Well, all of that's for the future, and as you know, we don't talk very much about the future, we talk about the present, and certainly I hope that we can all join together and congratulate Louise and Sigiano on their wonderful success, with the hope and expectation that there'll be more to come. Right, enough of that. Now on to the other purpose of today's blog. Now, most of you will be aware that this week there is the US presidential election. And the reason why I thought it would be good to talk about this today is because last week I talked about how we can control our mind to achieve more mindfulness. And today's blog is about how we can not control other people's minds, although we can certainly influence them if, in some ways if we so wish and are skillful, but it's to understand why other people come to the decisions that they do. Now, last week I said that in an average day, apparently we have 70,000 thoughts whizzing around our head. And most of these actually are not very helpful. And how we can become more mindful is to choose which of all of these thoughts we want to bring into our consciousness and develop into ideas which can translate into projects in whatever it is in our life that we wish to do. So, now what about other people? Now, the US presidential election. I got some bad news for about half of the people who live in that wonderful country, and you are going to be disappointed by the result because the person that you supported is not going to be elected. And you are going to find that very surprising because you used all of your thoughts and decided who you were going to vote for, and more people disagreed with you than agreed with you. Now, does that mean that you made a mistake? No, it doesn't. Does it mean that they've made a mistake? Well, you probably will think that they've made a big mistake. But this is the point. You don't have to do anything. But if you wish to understand why they voted for the person that you didn't vote for, bear in mind that those of the 70,000 thoughts that went through their mind, which were pretty much the same as yours, they chose to develop different thoughts than the ones that you did. And you can spend the rest of your life blaming the people who didn't agree with you, but it's unlikely to change any results. So I would just say, move on, plan your life accordingly, and if you're disappointed, put it behind you. And of course, I can talk from personal experience because in the UK we've just been a referendum, and as you might know, we've decided that we're going to leave the European Union. Well, that wasn't my vote, but I can understand why other people did. And going back to a previous blog about where these 70,000 thoughts come from, I mentioned the reptilian brain. And my reptilian brain is pretty much the same as everybody else's, but as I said, the conclusions that we come to from those 70,000 thoughts can be very different indeed. So I do understand why people voted for a decision that I didn't vote for. Now, that doesn't matter to us really, other than we just have to move on. But the thing that's worrying is that when you have half of the population deciding one thing and half of the population deciding another, it can fracture society. And we're seeing this in the UK, I mean, not in a terribly serious way, but bad enough, quite frankly. And I suspect we may see it in the States and other countries as well. So if you can just bear in mind that people do things for reasons that they think are the right reasons, and we all just need to be a bit tolerant on occasions, and accepting that possibly, hard to believe, I know, that we ourselves could be wrong. So that's enough about that. I have a feeling that there'll be more to talk about this subject, but understanding others is really important. And as I said, it doesn't really matter to most of us, apart from the fact that we are going to be surrounded by people who don't automatically agree with everything we say, and life will be very hard for us unless we have that degree of tolerance. And a message to any politicians, if they're watching this blog, and who knows, stranger things have happened, the reason why you folks lose elections is because you don't really understand what's going on in your voters' minds, and you rely on opinion polls, and you pay a lot of money for them. And opinion polls have not had a very good history, have a track record recently, so all of that money has just been wasted. You would have probably been better off buying yourself a goldfish, and I've mentioned before how mindful goldfish are, and seeing whether it swims around to the left or to the right, and that will have just as much chance probably of being the right result as all what these pollsters say. So just to end on another note, because a curious thing happened to me. I'm in Portugal at the moment, and behind me is a lake and a green where people are hitting the ball over the lake. And if the ball goes into the hole, that's a hole in one because it's a par 3. So if you hear any cheering, it'll be somebody's lucky day. Haven't heard anything yet. Anyway, so we went to a lovely restaurant last night with some friends. There aren't many places where you can have as much to eat and drink as you want for about $10, but this is one of them. And a curious thing happened when I left, and there were 3 wild dogs that I took an interest in, let's put it like that. And the person I was with said, "Are you an animal whisperer?" Well, I don't know, I've never talked in public about this before, but this is a question that a lot of people have asked me, and I normally sort of dodge the question really, but and I dodged it last night. But the truth is that I am not an animal whisperer. I can categorically say that, because when I work with animals, I don't speak. So how can I be a whisperer? Now, if any of you are interested to know more about how what I do works with European tour golfers, the top poker players in the world, and now, surprisingly, apparently the world of dressage, of course, Louise and Sigiana had a lot to do with that. In fact, all of the credit of their success is due to them. But anyway, if you would like to know more, then let me know, because I might possibly do a blog on my work with animals, and how, if you love animals and your pets, how you may be able to get a closer, more sharing relationship with them. Who knows? So I think that'll do for today. Thanks again for your support. I never ever take it for granted. A little soft, very soft marketing thing here. I do have my latest book out, Get Lucky Now, where I talk about all of these things that work with all the people I've mentioned, and with animals too. Get Lucky Now, it's on Amazon. So, don't know what we'll talk about next week. It'll depend a lot on what kind of feedback I get from you, so please make sure you get in touch with me through my website. I've got a new name for the website, which is really easy to remember. It's called getluckynow.me. So, I look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, have a great week. I hope most of the decisions go your way, and don't worry too much about the ones that don't, because life actually will carry on. Goodbye.